Brent Randall here from KYCC, and we are thrilled to have in our studio and offices Mark Hall from Casting Crowns.
Brent,
you're in Stockton for a concert tonight, Friday night.
Yes, I am.
Good to have you back in Stockton. You were here, 4 years ago?
Yeah, the Bob Hope Theater. When they said Bob Hope,
yeah.
I was like, I know that place.
You knew where you were going.
When it comes to arenas, sometimes I don't know if I've ever seen the front of an arena.
Right.
So you could show me that all day. But when you pull in the back, I'm like, I know that dumpster, that loading dock. This is where my kids played one time. So yeah.
I love it. This is where we live. I love it. 20-year anniversary tour.
That's right, man.
20 years you've been doing this thing. Did you see 20 years when you started this?
I didn't really think it was. I couldn't believe we were getting to start it. So I was 34, youth pastor. I got 2 kids at the time. I just had my third, and we didn't send demos off to some station or anything. It was a kid in my youth group that gave our CD to Mark Miller and Stephen. Okay. And I thought, they're going to look at me and go, you should write. I'm not really a rocker. I don't really have all that, And so I just thought, if I can stay a youth pastor, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. But I'm staying on staff at my church. So I don't see how that's going to work. Yeah. And so I was amazed that we got to even go. And I think it's been that way ever since. It's just, man, we're still getting to do this.
Yeah. You mentioned youth pastor. Now, you're from Atlanta.
Yeah.
Your church is somewhere in Atlanta.
We're in South Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah. Name of the church is?
Eagles Landing Church, yeah.
And you are still the youth pastor?
Still there. I'm one of them. So when Crowns happened and we realized it kind of hit hard suddenly, it was like with that first song, it just kind of blew up and I realized that I was going to need help. So I brought on co-youth pastors, and at the time I probably had 100 kids from the youth groups that are pastors now, and they were youth pastors and all this stuff. So I just go to my Timothys, and I'm like, all right, guys, need you to come back in and help me. And so, I don't build the student ministry around me. So I build it around them, let them bloom. And so I've just been helping and holding on. So, but I'm still at Eagles Landing, still been there.
I heard you say one time in concert, maybe the last time you were here in 19, you talked about how you will teach a lesson to a youth group, and then that will lead to a song.
It very much can.
Tell me about that.
Well, a lot of times, early in my faith, I kind of felt like I was the only one dealing with everything I was dealing with. Because back in the day, everybody kind of sat up straight. You never let them see you sweat. And I didn't know everybody was lying, so I thought I was the only train wreck in the room. So I kind of hid. And as I started kind of growing in my own faith, I started seeing, man, it's when you show your scars and you talk about your weakness that other people are like, oh, and they start identifying with you. So it was that way early on for me with kids. It's just, let's talk about it. So my students were the first to hear I was dyslexic. I'd never said the word dyslexic out loud till I was probably 22, because I'm not going to tell anybody that.
Right.
And seeing God working when we boast in our weakness, like Paul said, you boast in your weakness, so the power of Christ is what rests on you. And that started making a difference. And from that point on, I would have those moments in Bible studies and devotions where you would just be talking and a bunch of teenagers who are all looking at their feet just go, when they all look up, you're like, that's something that needs to be said. That just hit a nerve or something. And like recently, a couple years ago, I'm talking about sharing your faith. And I just remember saying something like, if we love our friends as much as we say we love our friends, aren't they worth one awkward moment? Isn't that all this is?
Okay.
Just one hard conversation.
Right.
And the heads just went in the room. And that's when I wrote the song One Awkward Moment.
Okay.
And because everybody's thinking the same stuff. We just need to talk about it. And we're not just living on a bus writing songs about songs. I mean, this is every day. This is walking through life. And yeah.
How do you balance the church life, the youth pastor life with the road life? I mean, you're not on the road, obviously, all year long. How do you balance that?
I'm confused. What is this word, balance? I don't know. I've heard legends of this, but the goal is we try to tour mainly Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
And then we on Wednesday night, we do youth group, get on the bus and head out, and we roll back in Sunday morning, right before sound check at about 8:15. And so that's the goal. Okay. And so normally we're weekend warriors, and then we're back in our church, because in youth, when you're doing youth ministry, you're there through the week. So like I'm in classes and at the school, at our school. So that's kind of the picture of how it's supposed to work.
Okay.
There's times when either side will start eating the other, you know.
Yeah.
But
Do you find it unique that you mentioned I can do the math, so you're somewhere in your 50s based on what you said earlier. Do you find it unique that you are a 50-something youth pastor? You're a unique bird, are you not?
Yeah. I think a lot of youth pastors are kind of working their way up to be pastors, like a pastor junior, you know. But I don't like grown-ups as much, you know. Like a teenager, you know what they're thinking because their shirt says it or anything. But adults, you don't know what they're thinking. Okay. Past the passive-aggressive Facebook posts, you don't know what's going on in their heads. But no, I'm kidding. I think for me, it's just that's how I'm put together. And I do a lot of stuff with dads now. Okay. That's a big deal for me as well. So, you know, I think as you grow older, you're working with everybody. And then you start learning that student ministry is actually family ministry. And you're working with parents. And so, I mean, it's all part of it.
Got it. Obviously, when you go out on tour, go out on the road, you're meeting people who have been impacted by your songs. How do those stories keep you motivated, or do they keep you motivated to keep doing what you're doing? Very
much so. Like for me, someone just coming up and telling you you're awesome doesn't really mean anything. Okay. Because there's no such thing as famous. Okay. There's no such thing. Okay. Famous just means you know a lot about this person, but you never met him. Okay. And then you meet him, and you go, he's just like everybody else. You're like, that's exactly right. So that whole thing doesn't affect me at all. But when somebody says a song meant something, that's huge, because there are songs that kind of built me, you know, that pointed me to Scripture at the right time. Like His strength is perfect when our strength is gone. Stephen Curtis Chapman. The record, I'll Lead You Home, Michael W. Smith. That record was so raw and just like I've never felt so dead. It's in a song, you know. I'm like, man, nobody talks like this, and it just was part of me. And we did his anniversary concert in Nashville probably 5 or 6 years ago, and all these artists came to sing their song, their favorite Michael W. Smith song, and the 2 or 3 that I wanted were taken. I was like, oh man. So I go back to that I'll Lead You Home record, and I start listening through, and I heard a song that I forgot I even knew. And my tears are coming down my face because it took me back. That was the moment I needed to hear it. And I didn't remember the song. I didn't remember he sang it. It was just part of me. That's the goal.
That's powerful stuff.
That's the goal.
You won't remember this, but or maybe you will. A couple of years ago at the Momentum Convention in Orlando, radio convention, I was in the audience. And you came out on stage and performed what still stands as my favorite Casting Crowns song.
I can only imagine, right?
It was not. It was Scars in Heaven.
Yeah.
You came out on stage and did Scars in Heaven. And I think, in my opinion, you blew away the room. And you got all done. The song finishes. The room is silent. And I yell at the top of my lungs, beautiful. And you kind of sort of nodded and acknowledged that you heard it. What's the story? Because it's my favorite Crown song. Yeah. So let me just ask a selfish question. Yeah. What's the story behind Scars in Heaven?
There's a lot of stories. When I first started writing the song, it was called The Better Parts of Me. And because it was a conversation with my mom, right when she lost both of her parents, and just walking through that, and she was saying things like, I know where they are, I just wasn't ready for them to not be here. Like I wasn't ready for how quiet it was going to be, and I wasn't ready for the place in my life that they fit and they're not there, the absence, you know, and we're just talking through that. And here I am trying to minister to my mom. I'm like, what am I going to say to my mom? She taught me everything, you know, and the scripture that came to mind was when Jesus appeared before his disciples, and they weren't sure it was him because they didn't really know what to do with that.
Right.
And he showed them his scars. And I said, Mom, Jesus still has his scars. I said, that the reason there's no pain in heaven is because he took that. And the reason there's no tears in heaven is because he took that. So we'd be free of it and we could rest. And just as much as they're healed now, we can be healed here too by just resting in where they are and that he's got them.
Wow.
And just, it was just a conversation on the couch. And the idea of scars in heaven, first, I'm a picture thinker. Like I see it when I'm writing a song, it's like a movie in my head. And the first time I thought of that line, it was several records back, maybe 3 or 4 records back, in a song called Wedding Day. And it's a song about when Jesus returns, what that's going to look like, the bride and the groom. And in that song, I said, the only scars in heaven are going to touch her face. Okay. And that was the first time that word picture. And just when we were all talking that day, that kind of all came back. And that's sort of the official story.
Yeah.
Unofficially, it's I'm walking with my dad through Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's been really tough. And so I feel like in every way, in every line, I'm writing his song before it happens.
Wow.
And so I guess I don't think I'll be able to then.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so
yeah.
I feel like a lot of the songs that I've written have been before something.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
And so not in some sort of psychic weird way,
right.
but just kind of preparing myself for something that's happening. And so it's really my dad's song.
Wow.
I just can't really say that to
right.
Concerts and stuff.
Got it. Right. Last question for you. Your current single is All Because of Mercy.
Yeah.
Talk to me about All Because of Mercy.
You know, I think we put a little too much stock in ourselves when it comes to how we got saved. I think in our heads we're saved because we started doing something or we stopped doing something. And, because I picked this worldview or I picked this religion and it's just not possible. You don't try Jesus. You have to trust him, right? And the only reason you even trusted him is because he drew you to him. Right. You've got no credits in this film of you being saved. So as important as that is, you really start realizing it when you're hurting and when you're failing and when you're falling down. Because if you find that when you're not, you find that you pray less when you're not doing good. You've ever had those days where you're like, I've been a complete train wreck this weekend, and now I need to know, I need this protection on this. I'm like, I don't think I can pray. Yeah. Well, what you just said is Jesus is not enough for you to pray, apparently, right? You're saying my badness today is bigger than him on the cross. So it's a reminder in a million ways that no, you're not good enough. You weren't, and you won't be. That's not why you're saved. You're saved because of Jesus and what he did. And that's what the song's about.
Very powerful stuff. We've got Mark Hall from Casting Crowns. It's been a delight to have you here. Welcome back to Stockton, California.
Thanks, Brent.